Yo, what up everybody? Mr. Smith here, back with another video about VCarve. Alright, so we have been slowly going through all the different techniques and processes of VCarve, just kind of learning, how to work with images, how to plan for specific toolpaths and cuts. But today we are going to, we're transitioning towards making products. So today we're going to be looking at a board game that I used to play with it when I was a kid. It was one of my favorites. It's simple, it's easy, and just requires a little bit more design than we've been doing. All right. So I want everybody to make sure you have your VCarve up. All right. So make sure you got VCarve desktop opened up. But I am going to share with you about Mancala. All right. So Mancala is a very simple game. The rules are very simple. But basically, you want to collect as many stones into your bank as possible, and the banks are these little big end pieces here, like these end rectangles, or sometimes they're more of like circles. But that's your bank, and then you move with marbles through the board. All right, and there's specific place 4 marbles in each of the 6 pits. On your side, your opponent will do the same. And then basically you follow the rules of Mancala until there's a winner. All right, so again, we're working towards building products. So we're going to go through the process of kind of how to build this using our CNC machine. All right, so first things first, let's go ahead and create a new file in VCarve. So create new file. On the top left here, we're just going to leave our width at 25 and our height at 25. But we want our thickness to be 1.0. All right, 1.0. And then we're going to click OK. All right, so for this project, we are not going to be working off like a perfect set of plans. I'm basically going to give us a starting point, and we're just going to make some decisions based off how our design looks. All right, so first things first, we need to kind of, if you look back at this, we need to work on building the outside of this board, so the rectangle. All right, so I'm going to go to my rectangle tool, and the first set of dimensions I want to use is this. All right, so we're going to do 18.5 width and 5.5 height. All right, 18.5 width and 5.5 height. All right, so clicking on my rectangle tool, my XY anchor point is going to be 0, 0, so that it generates in the bottom left of my workspace. Then, again, 18.5 is my X, so my width is 18.5, and my height is 5.5. So my Y, or my height, is 5.5. Once I have that, I'm going to click Create. All right, and it created the board in the bottom left for me. Exactly what I wanted. All right, guys, so you got to remember, like, what was my goal of doing this, and did it happen? We wanted this size in the bottom left. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I actually need 2 of these. All right, one's going to be the board, and one's going to be a cover that goes on top. So I'm going to move this just kind of off the edge a little bit. So I'm using the arrow keys. Remember, if you click and highlight and it turns that pinkish purple color, you can use your arrow keys to move. So I'm just going to move it off the edge a little bit. Then I'm going to Control C and Control V to create a second one, and I'm using the arrows to move that one. All right, so these are kind of my tops and bottoms. One thing I have not showed y'all yet is you can use a measuring tool. So over here on the left, under Edit Objects, there is a measure tool. So if you forget your dimensions that you did, you can use this tool to measure it. So you'll see that I measured that top piece, and up here the distance is 18.5 between those 2 points. All right. One thing I do like to do sometimes is I like to label my pieces, so with text boxes. So this is the board. All right. So I'm just using a text box tool. Uh-oh. Let me do that again. The board. Add caps lock on. Close. Alright. So I'll just kind of make it smaller. And I like to just label my different pieces. We just, at the end, we won't add a toolpath. It's just a little label to help us keep track of what we're doing. And also, this is the top piece. Alright, so I do encourage you to label your pieces, especially as we start getting into more design. You know, if you're building like a dresser or something like that, you're definitely going to want to label like side A, side B, side C, left side, right side, top. Alright, so we've got our top and we've got our board. So we're done with this. Alright, we've got our 18.5 by our 5.5. So I'm going to exit out of that and I'm going to pull up a new one for you. Alright, so these are the positions of our, or I guess these are the locations of our points on our board. Alright, so first thing we need to do is we see that our first kind of position is 1 3/8 inward and 1 3/8 up. Alright, so we need to figure out how to move our first point or place our, so it's easy to draw a circle, guys. Like, it's real easy. For this, we're going to use 2-inch diameter circles. Alright, so I'm just going to show you, like, or 2-inch diameter. So I need the radius to be 1 inch. So I'm going to click create. It's real easy for us to just kind of drag a circle onto this board. Right? Super easy. But it's kind of difficult for us to place it in the correct spot. There's several ways you can do this. One way is to place that circle perfectly on the bottom left. Alright, so that circle is perfectly on the bottom left. And then you can go into your circle tool and see that that position is 0.712 on mine and 0.9493 in the Y. And I can just do a little math. Alright. Or we have a dimension tool here. The dimension tool can help us place stuff. So for instance, let me show you where that was again. Next to the bitmap trace tool over here, there's the dimension tool. So I can go in here and actually dimension to find stuff. Or sometimes what I like to do is I like to use rectangles. So for this scenario, I'm going to use rectangles. I'm going to show you how I'm using rectangles to kind of figure out where we're going. All right. So if I click here, oh, hold on. Let me change the size first. So if we look back at our plan, we know that this is 1 3/8 in and 1 3/8, or sorry, and the height of our board, if you remember, is 5.5. So 1 3/8 in and 5.5 up. All right, we could draw a rectangle there. So let me get back to this. All right. So I'm going to go a rectangle, and I need to go 1 3/8. So on my calculator, 3 divided by 8, if you just don't know it off head, is 0.375. So 1 3/8 in, or 1 3/8 is our width. So 1.375 by 5.5, and I click create. All right, so that gives us this kind of rectangle here. If we look back at our plan, our next rectangle is 2 1/4 over, 2.25 over. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a series of rectangles to get all our points in here. So now I'm going to change the width from 1.375 to 2.25. And when I click on this bottom right corner here, let me zoom in. So I'm going to click right here. It drew my next one. And if I click here, it drew the next one. And I click here, it drew the next one. So we're going to need these. Sorry, guys. We're going to need these to go all the way across. All right, so I'm going to click that one. I'm going to click that one. I'm going to click that one. Looks like one more. All right, and if I know it worked correctly, my dimensions will be pretty accurate. So that dimension tool up here by the little bitmap trace bird, if I click here to here, all right, 1.375 is what I wanted, here to here, 2.25. All right, that means that over here should also be 1.375 if everything is working, and it is. All right, so I'm just kind of using rectangles to help me space out my board. And this is just one way. There's multiple ways you could do this. I like to use rectangles and circles and stuff to kind of help me get my points. All right, so let's look at our board again. What's our next move here? Well, our next move is we now need to create the crosspoints. So we need a rectangle that's going to go, well, really we need a square that goes 1 3/8 in and 1 3/8 down. All right, so I'm going to go to my rectangle tool now, and 1 3/8. So that is 1.375. So on my width, 1.375. Create. Oh, actually, we need to change our height, right? 1.375. Because look, we're trying to get this little rectangle here so we know where that middle point is. So I'm going to click this corner. Well, I'm going to click this corner. And I can actually Control C and Control V and move a copy up to the top. So just make sure you want to drag it so it lines up. Oh, let me grab the corner. There we go. You just want to drag it so that everything lines up. So you're just putting these in here so we can find this center point here. All right, so now really, if we can just draw a line across or extend our rectangle across. Oh, that moves it. I want to drag it. So if we drag this across and we drag this rectangle across, then we kind of have all our markings for our board. Uh-oh, I had an extra one in here. My bad, guys. All right, 1.375. So I can just double check. If I take my dimension tool, you know, from here to here, should be 2.25. From here to here should be that 1.3 or 1. That should be 1.375. Huh. What is it from here to here? So this is why it's always good to double check your dimensions. So somehow this rectangle got a little bit too tall. I must have missed the 3. All right, I must have not pressed the 3 and I typed 1.75. All right, so I'm going to highlight that again. Yeah, see, I missed the 3 there. So 1.375 and click apply and it'll shrink it, which means I also need to switch this one 1.375 and click apply. All right, so guys, just make sure all your dimensions make sense. So I just showed you that I double checked mine and they didn't work out how I wanted. So this is 1.375, right? So now we're looking good. This should be 2.25. I'm just kind of randomly checking. Okay, yeah, that's even all the way across, so that all that should be good. Just make sure you're drawing straight lines when you're doing this, and the dimensions should be good. Okay. The only weird one is, what is this one here? Look, I messed up on the top again, yo. Oh, it's because it's not touching. Alright. Can y'all tell that it's the morning? Alright, there we go. So now I'm going to double check here the height of this little box, and 1.375. Alright, you just want to make sure that everything is spaced correctly. Alright, and mine is now. It took me a little bit of work, but now it is spaced correctly. Which means this should be here. Right? Let me double check my edges. Alright, looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and take a screenshot real quick. Alright, so that way I kind of have that for y'all later. I'm going to put it on It's Learning for y'all to refer to. Alright, so let's move forward. So at this point we need to put our circles. Alright, and I told y'all that our circles, I'm going to do all the inside circles first, but they're of, well, I wanted to do them of diameter 2 inches, which is actually, let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to place a 2-inch circle on every one of these. Alright, and remember guys, I'm not going off a schematic off the internet. I'm kind of making up my own dimensions as we go. And if we look at this, like this is how theirs looks. I've decided I want to use circles for ours, or at least mine. You can use these square shapes if you would like. Okay, I feel like we've got actually pretty good spacing there. Alright, so just a reminder, the radius is 1, or if you do diameter, it's 2. Alright, and just to show you, I'm going to dimension that. And you'll see that, well, come on now. Let me just draw it across so that way y'all can see it. Or I can draw it there. See, 1.0. Alright, or if you're looking at the diameter, 2.0. Alright, so that's the dimensions for our thing. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and move my webcam because we're starting to get kind of further along in this. So, we now need to draw our endpoints here. So the way that you draw your endpoints is you go back and you're going to draw a circle at each one of these points, like so. Alright, so I went back and drew circles. But then we have to actually connect them. Alright, so on the left side under Create Vectors, I'm going to go to the Draw the Line tool. And I'm going to draw a line to connect. Just drawing a line to connect the top circle to the bottom circle. And once that's done, then sorry guys. Okay, once that's done, we're going to use what's called the trimming tool. So these little scissors over here on the left is our trimming tool. So if we click on those, we can click the inside of our circles. So that way it has this nice rounded, what we call the bank shape. And I'm going to do the same thing on the right side. So if you missed it, I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to connect the edges of our circles. So like right where, I guess the, if you're going from the origin of the circle out to the diameter, you know, right to the edges, just kind of connect them like so. And then I am going to trim. Oh, I trimmed the wrong lines. Trim the inside circles. Alright, whenever you do trimming, it's always a good habit to go back and click on what you just made and make sure it's one piece. All right, so you see how mine is one entire piece, and that is one entire piece. So I know that when I trimmed, I actually trimmed accurately. All right, I didn't mess up in my trimming. So at this point, guys, our board is pretty well made. It's looking pretty good. Remember, all these little rectangles we drew are there for us to double check ourselves. So we don't need them anymore. They're there for us to actually, so all the rectangles and dimensions that we did along the way, we can now go in and delete those because they are not part of our actual design. They were just there for us to make sure that everything is kosher. All right, so I'm going to leave the outside dimensions, but yeah, this is what our board is going to potentially look like. All right, so what I want to do now is I'm going to drag click all the circles we made for the inside of the Mancala board. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to group those. The reason why is we're about to do the toolpath. All right, we're about to do the toolpath for that. And to do the toolpath, it's just if we mess up, it's easier to click and they're all highlighted. So on the right, go ahead and go into your toolpath. I like to click the little pen on the top right, because it keeps my toolpath open and I don't have to keep clicking it. All right, so what we're going to do first is we're going to do the toolpath for a pocket. All right, because we don't want these cut all the way through. We want them to be pockets. So I'm going to click that. I want to use my end mill 1/4 inch. Again, if you don't see that, guys, if you go into select, go into Imperial, open up end mills. So sometimes it's closed up like this. So you need to open it, open up end mills, make sure you grab that 1/4 inch and click select. All right, so I'm going to use my end mill 1/4 inch. My cut depth, our board is 1 inch thick if y'all remember from the beginning. So our cut depth, let's do 0.4, almost halfway through. And then this is going to be, let's call it pocket board. I like pocket board. All right, and then click calculate. All right, so mine says that I have one open vector, so I'm going to click OK. All right, so I did have an error there. I'm going to reset preview and preview all. Okay, so because I see that my left side here did not show up, that means that I have an error. So I need to go in and fix that. All right, I didn't mean for this to happen, but I'm glad it did. So in case you get an error, you might run into the same thing. So I want to right click, ungroup back to the original object layers. And that just means I need to come in here and fix this. I instantly see, do y'all see that? That two of my lines are not connected together. All right, so I didn't do this on purpose. It just kind of happened. But this is a good chance for me to show you the weld tool. So if I click this, over here on the left under Edit Objects, or not the weld, the join tool, I can click Join. All right, so my tolerance here is only for 0.004. So I need to lower it. That means that this is further than 0.004. So I have to lower this. So like 0.0, I don't know, 0.05. It still doesn't find it. 6, 7, 8. All right. If I hit join, now it will pull those two lines together. And I now have actual vectors that are complete. All right. So if that ever happens, guys, use the join tool to kind of join your things back together. So I'm going to double click my pocket again. I'm going to highlight what I want and I'm going to click calculate. Let me look at this. So I'm going to delete, actually I'm going to delete those clears and run the pocket from the beginning. I'm just resetting it up. Okay, there we go. So I had multiple bits selected, so I had multiple bits inside my tools. So we're only using one. Double check that you only have a 1/4 inch end mill here, so that way it'll just use one tool and not have you actually clear it twice. Alright, so if I just keep reset preview all, you can see my nice little Mancala boards coming along, right? Our next move, if we close that and go back into our 2D view, now we need to cut out our outsides. So I'm going to cut that and that. All right, when we cut things out, we use what's called the profile, which is the first one. Remember, our board depth is 1 inch, so we need to cut 1.05. You always want to go a little bit more. All right, so start depth 0, cut depth 1.05, end mills 1/4 inch. All right, we want to cut along the outside. I don't think we need to add tabs for this one. I think it'll be okay. And then I'm just going to call this board out. All right, so then I'm going to calculate, and you will see here that it cuts our 2 pieces. All right, if you want, guys, you know, just for practice, if you want to go in here and highlight your text, you could do a VCarve on that text. 0.15. I'm just going to call this text. Again, I'm just using those to keep track, but if you want to have it kind of on your final board, you can. All right, so for the top piece here, guys, basically this is going to be a lid. This is going to be a lid for it. So what I want you to do is, we've been working with images, so this is going to be a good practice for you. I want you to design your own kind of logo on the top. All right, I don't expect you to follow what I'm doing. I want you to design your own design for the top of this. The only requirement is I want you to have the word Mancala. All right, so somewhere on here, on the top, you need to have Mancala and at least one image. So for mine, you know, this is doing a little branding for myself, right? So maybe I might pull my hello. Hey guys, sorry, my headphones died. Yeah, maybe I'll pull my own logo into this and, you know, shrink it down, have it in the middle there, and maybe on mine I'll go in here, add a little bit of Mancala. Alright, so the only requirement is you have the word Mancala and you use at least one image, but take the time to be creative. You know, really put some effort into this. So now I'm going to group that together, and I'm just going to do a, I'm going to see what a carving looks like. So I don't want to go as deep on that, so maybe 0.08, and I'm going to call this top text maybe. Alright, so it looks like I got a bunch of vectors that are probably not, yeah, look at this. That's the only issue with having your own design, is sometimes your vectors just don't work out very well. So I'm going to ungroup this just like I did earlier. Actually, I think part of the issue is I need to do what's called a weld, which will combine a lot of those things. Unfortunately, it combined my beard. Let's see, I'm going to weld my name together. So what the weld does, let me just show y'all real quick. You see how these letters are overlapping each other? If I highlight all of that and I use the weld tool, then it actually welds them together. The overlaps go away. So that is definitely what's happening here with my beard. The issue is when I want to weld the beard. Actually, that don't even look that bad. Let me just try to join. Yeah, there's so many. Well, maybe there's not a lot of open woodens anymore. Alright, so let me see. I'm going to group these, calculate. I'm just going to continue anyway to see what it looks like. Okay, it don't look bad. Even though I have some open vectors, it doesn't carve very well though. So I need to kind of work on maybe the depth here. Maybe go a little bit deeper. See what it looks like if it's a little deeper. It's coming out a little better. So I need to work on my logo, guys. That's really not the point of this video. I've kind of wasted a few more minutes of your day. But this is what I want you to work on this week. We're designing your own Mancala board. I have some marbles, so when you're done, we can cut these and have ourselves a little classroom set of Mancala. So as always, when you're done, please screenshot your 3D and your 2D view. I look forward to seeing your unique designs on your top. Everybody's bottom should be pretty much the same. And other than that, guys, I'll see you next time. Thanks.